Now, dear students, after we are done with this section, we're gonna move on to some guided practice. Are you ready to jump right in? Okay. Now, our story is called The Eagle and the Tortoise. We discussed a lot about it, and we predicted some events. Now it's your time to read it silently, skim and scan it for 2 minutes. But you have to pay attention that while reading, it's important to underline the past verbs used in the story. Are you ready? Okay, let's jump right in. Okay, now you're done. Yes, Sarah, what have you underlined? Wanted. Good job. Omar? Fell. Wow, great. Sammy? Warned. Amazing. Yes, Selwa, what have you underlined? Moved. Great job. Excellent. So, guys, let's brush up on some past verbs that we have taken recently. We said that we have two kinds of verbs. Who remembers them? Yes? Yes, Sarah? Past. Regular verbs. Amazing. Omar? Irregular verbs. Excellent. Now, what's the difference? What's the difference between regular and irregular? Yes, Ziad? Regular verbs, that are the verbs that end with ed, and irregular, Haya? It doesn't end with ed. It has different forms. Good job. Now, like, who can give me example of the verb that has a different form, or it like something different from ed? Fall. Excellent. What was the past? Yes, Sami? Fell. Good job. Now, as you mentioned before, you underlined some verbs. You underlined verbs like wanted. You underlined verbs like talked and carried. Do they have some differences? What are the differences then? The pronunciation of the ed. Good job, great students. Okay, let's mention some of them. You said the verb talk. What is the final sound in the verb talk without ed? It's k, k. Okay, let's pronounce it all together. K, k. I want you to feel your vocal cords, guys. Just, put your fingers on your neck. Do you feel any kinds of vibration while pronouncing the k sound? Good job. For example, cook. Example, dress, talk. So let's attach the ed. Talk, talked. Walk, walked. Cook, cooked. Dress, dressed. So what do we understand from this rule? Yes, Sarah? Great job! Amazing! That's fabulous. So the verbs that end with a voiceless sound like k, s, f, and many more, when they are added to ed, the ed is pronounced like t, t, talked, walked. Good job. And what about the verb wanted? Wanted. You previously mentioned the verb wanted, Omar. Wanted. What does it end with? It's t, and t is voiceless. Why did we say wanted? Why did we add the extra syllable id? Why didn't we say wanted? You go for it? Oh, good job. You still remember it. Yeah, we had it last year, if you remember. So the verbs that end with two sounds, t and d, Here, the grammar is different, or the rule is different. The verbs that end with those two sounds, the ed is pronounced id. Like, for example, wanted, painted, acted, and so on. What about carried? Yes, Sally. What is the final sound in carried before it's attached to ed? Carry. E. Good job. It's Y. We pronounce like E. Please put your fingers on your neck, please, guys. Yeah, and try to feel your vocal cords. Do you feel any vibration? Good job. Good job. Like, for example, when you say live, carry, use, when the S is pronounced like Z. Okay, good job. So, how do we pronounce the ed here? Excellent. We pronounce d, like carried, moved, and so on. Good job. Now, we will conclude this by saying that past simple verbs are verbs that started in the past and finished in the past. They are completed actions in past with no result or effect in the present. Okay, now let's move on. It's worth mentioning that when the story is written in the past, we have sequence of events. We start with first, I'm gonna write it on the board, then, after that, excellent, finally, good job. Now you're gonna work in groups. Sarah, you have Omar and Sally. Salwa, you have Ziad and Haya. And Jude, you have Layla and Rami. Work in groups and try to brainstorm the ideas of the story and write them in this sequence, in this order. After you finish, we are going to discuss it and use this for our pre-writing, and then we'll move to the real writing. Are you ready? Let's jump right in. Thank you so much. Good job.